Welcome to year 2 of A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.
Hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer
Frank Bates and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, Hall of Fame basketball writer Peter Vescey.
My brother
Frank, how are you this morning, pal?
pretty good.
Yeah, you're looking pretty good.
Best I can with what I got.
Frank, neither one of us are very attractive men.
Hey, speak for yourself. Well, we're no Derek Harris.
Well, no, but who's Derek Harris?
I don't know. Can I see Derek Harris on camera, please?
Yes. Hi,
Oh,
fellas.
he took his sunglasses
How you
off.
doing? Oh, let me put them
Why don't you
back.
put him back on?
Yeah.
Wow.
If I was a
Now-
cop, I'd pull that guy over.
So what do you want to talk about? How about inflation?
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I was in Scottsdale, Arizona a couple of weekends ago, and I went into the cafeteria or the commissary, whatever the fuck you call it, and I was hungry because I got to the airport a little bit early. So I ordered some oatmeal with raisins and berries. So the oatmeal comes out. There was like 8 blueberries, 7 raisins.
I like that you counted them.
I counted them. But the thing that I cared about the most was they charged me $16.50 for a bowl of oatmeal. And like a schmuck, I paid. Are you okay over there? Are you dying? Are you okay over there?
$16.50 for oatmeal. I would have got a to-go cup. Can I get a to-go thing for this?
What's a to-go cup?
A to-go cup. You know, like something to take it with you.
I thought we were in another Roger Bear situation.
A to-go cup.
Oh.
Unbelievable. $16.50. I tell you, a buddy of mine was in Florida, ordered a glass of wine at the airport. Florida, not New York, $24.50 for a glass of wine. He said, I was going to use your old line about what, I break a window or something?
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Went to a gas station, right? I had I just give me $20 on number 2. The guy says to me, where you going? Pump 4? You got to go for grams of gas now. No more gallons of gas.
Gasoline was $2 lower in Arizona than it was a gallon than it was here. I remember when I was in Florida, in Jacksonville, in 1968, 69, they used to have gas wars. And gas was 29 cents a gallon. I would wait till it went down to 22 to fill up the car.
29 cents a gallon, man, 22.
I remember in 73, 74, driving around because I refused to pay 35 cents a gallon for gas during the Ford campaign, or the Ford, when Ford was president. We had the gas wars then.
Yeah.
Alternate days you could buy gas.
Oh, yeah, that was a big thing during the Curt administration, too. That was you could only get gas on alternate. You had the license plate. It was odd or even.
Yeah.
That was the deal. And I was a fireman, so I was able to get gas. That was a big, the gas station next door would give it to us, whether it was odd or even, because we were on a job, But yeah, I mean, grapes. I went to the grocery store. All I wanted was grapes. $9 for the grapes. I said, $9? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I should snort them or eat them. I said, $9. Would I chop them up? I mean, it's incredible price. And Democrats are going to take the rap for that, no matter what. I mean, whether it's their fault or not, it don't matter. They're going to take the rap.
Well, but by the way, before we get too far into this, our guest today is Peter Vescey.
Oh, wow, Pete Vescey, man.
Terrific basketball columnist, the man who was Stephen A. Smith before there was Stephen A. Smith.
That's a perfect definition.
If there was no if there was no Pete Vescey, there would be no Stephen A. Smith. So,
wow, and played a lot of ball himself. Well, ask him. I played in the rugby league. Dr. J was the best man at his wedding.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep. So, what else do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
We've touched on inflation. We've touched on the price of gas.
Talk about your personal trainer. What is he? Is he?
I got a personal trainer. I got a personal trainer 2 days a week.
Taking a quick look at you, Frank, I'd fire the prick right away. I think you get ripped off.
Yeah, well, I wish I had your personal trainer. Jenny O'Connor.
Yeah, that's the only exercise I get too, believe me.
Yeah, but you
It's
get
Jenny
it.
O'Connor.
You get it 5-6 days a week.
Well, without a doubt. She's the best. Never says no in the middle of the night or in the afternoon or any other time.
I don't
Yeah,
want.
the only exercise I get.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
tell
wanna
you,
Still playing golf?
playing at it. You know what I mean? Every now and then. The other day, I was playing. I hit 8 balls on one hole. 8 balls. I mean, I hit, and they were all over the place. So I get a lot of walking done like that. I only walk 9, but it's the mountains. You ought to come up one day and bang it around.
Oh, yeah, okay. Get a tee time.
Get off those beautiful courses. Tea time.
Get a
There
tea
ain't
time.
nobody out there.
Get a tea time. I'll be there. If I'm not there, start without me.
Tea time. There's nobody on this course. It's like that's why I hit 7, 8 balls a hole. It's a 9-hole course in the mountains. Nobody's up there.
When we get your golf Paul, people sort of mark their golf balls. You put your phone number on it and address.
I hit range balls. I got down on the first hole. I go to the right and I just pick up anything that looks decent and throw them in there because I figure I'm hitting so many balls a hole I'm going to lose them anyway. I don't care. Who cares? I mean,
Of course.
Nobody gives a shit. I don't even keep score. You keep score?
No, not anymore.
No.
What's the point? If I shoot, well, I'm not going to shoot 85 anymore. But if I shoot 85 or 105, it doesn't make any difference. I still got to go home at the end of the day.
Yeah, and does anybody care if you shoot an 82 or an 85? Nobody gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit.
I'd love to see Frank play against Larry David. That would be awesome. Would you keep score then?
No, not the way I play now. I mean, there was a time I'd kick Larry David's ass on a golf course, but now I can't play with him. I can't play with anybody. I could play with Billy.
Yo, you can play with me.
I could play with Billy. I could play with Derek, and you don't even play.
Yeah, I'd win.
Oh, fine. I'll give you that. Hey, you know what?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, enough about who cares about our golf.
Who cares about us? Let's get Pete Vescey on the phone.
Yeah, let's talk to Pete.
All right.
Here he is.
There he is.
Where are you guys?
We're in Pasadena, California.
Can you see us? You can see us, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Nice place to be.
And you're in Saratoga Springs, New York.
I am.
Pete, that's my friend Billy O'Connor.
How are you, Pete? Nice to know you. Real pleasure. An honor.
That's Derek Harris.
Hello.
Billy.
We're going to try, at your request, we're going to try to ask you some questions you had never been asked before.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Hey, Derek, are your parents black? Are you black?
Yes, I'm black.
No, because I mean your name is spelled differently than every other white Derek in the world. You know?
Oh, so that's so black people spell their names different.
Absolutely. All the time.
Why don't we see you on camera?
Well, I am on camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how he's asking me.
Especially if you're a rapper, then without a doubt.
Well, Peter.
Peter.
Peter, that's sort of like that goes back to the creativity of black people, I think.
No question.
Yeah.
Oh, you just can't spell.
Oh, yeah. Or there's that.
I think if you have a creative spelling, you probably can spell better than the average.
I remember that Anne-Free Hardaway. Remember that Anne-Free Hardaway?
Anthony?
Anne-Free? Yeah, that was...
Oh, I mean, so many. I mean, you can't spell it. You can't spell a name correctly anymore. It has to be different. Which is fine. I like different.
What was the pitcher's name for the Phillies? Sir Anthony? They're talking about everybody. His first name is Sir Anthony.
Sir Anthony.
That's his first name.
Sir.
So the broadcasters are all calling him Sir Anthony, like he's Sir Paul McCartney.
Maybe he was knighted.
Or Sir Nick or something. It's crazy.
Peter, I'm going to jump right in off the bat. I was fascinated when I was doing research. I've been reading you all my life, by the way. I've always read your columns. I'm a New Yorker, Bronx guy. And
yeah, well, let's be careful about it. We're about the same age, aren't we? So don't tell me all your life.
True enough. Right. All right, I watch my words, but I was fascinated. You dropped out of high school, Green Berets, man, amazing. What year did you go over there?
I did not go over there. You did, right?
Yeah, but I was in the Air Force, so hardly the Green Berets. My aspect of Vietnam was totally different than yours, I'm sure. I was on a secure Air Force base in
I was in Vietnam in 1962 on a ship that was going around the world, and I was working on a ship, merchant ship. But then when I went in the Army, I was drafted, and I figured if I was going to go, I was just telling people the other day about it. I had they were from California, they were from Monterey, and I said, Monterey? I said, I did my advanced infantry training in Fort Ord, and everybody knew that once you finished with your advanced infantry, the next stop was 30 days off, and then you're going to Nam. So when they came recruiting, they needed because the war was escalating, and they needed guys who were drafted to get into the Green Berets, but you were only allowed to do communications. So you took a test, Morse code test, see if you could do it. And I passed, and I just figured if I'm going to go, I want to go as tough as I can, as smart as I can. So I volunteered for the Berets, but then you had to go to airborne training down at Fort Benning. But at least that got me back on the East Coast. and then if you dropped out of airborne, 30 days off, and then you're going to Vietnam. So the pressure was on, and I just volunteered for as many things in the special forces that would prolong my learning and delay me going to Vietnam. But again, if I went, I wanted to go with the best. And the Berets at that time, I mean, they were, I'm kind of a gung-ho guy. So I was like just so amazed that I was I was studying under guys who fought in Korea, even some World War II veterans, and definitely a bunch of guys that had been to Nam and back many times. Well, not many by that time. It was 60, 65 we're talking about. But, so many guys do you care about war? No, we want war. We want to fight. Oh, amazing. Okay. Well, I want to be with them.
Well, their attitude is amazing. I was just telling Frank before that Jimi Hendrix was was airborne, 101 airborne or something before he zeroed out. But I was looking at a picture the other day. It just comes to mind of Lee Marvin's gravestone, and the thing he has on his all the things he accomplished. Lee Marvin, the thing he has on his U.S. Marine and the year he was there, and I think he made 6 Pacific landings or something, which is astronomical to live through 6 Pacific landings.
Yeah, that is amazing. It is meaningful to anybody who went through the training and then to go through war. The camaraderie is unbelievable, and I'm still in touch with several guys that I was in the Berets with. And me and another guy were like the only ones who didn't go over. And to finish the story, it's so when I was finished training and they were ready to send me over, I had 6 months left on my 2 years being drafted, and they told me, okay, so we're going to extend you 6 months so we can send you over. They would not send you over for less than 11 months. If you had less than 11 months, they weren't going to spend that kind of money because get there, spend some months, and come back. So let's do an extension. And I said, no, I don't think so. I got a job waiting for me. I was working for the Daily News when I got drafted. I was a statistician, making good money. I had a great car waiting for me. So they were not happy about it. I'll tell you that right out. So they they ostracized me for the last months of my tour. And they made me, they said, all right, so just make sure you show up for 6 o'clock, when we have falling out. And then when we have it again at 4 o'clock, make sure you show up. And in between, we really don't care what you do.
Wow.
They had me opening and cleaning classroom. We were teaching Vietnamese people all sorts of stuff there, women and men. And so they had actual classrooms, and I would go open them up, clean them if they needed it, close them up. That was my last 6 months.
Wow. And that was Saigon?
No, he wasn't over there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Try to pay attention.
I
Billy.
am paying
You know,
attention. I'm sorry. I
can-
drifted.
can-
I was enraptured with the stories. I missed it. Excuse me.
No, it was Fort Bragg.
Fort
Bragg.
So you come back and you're working at the News or the Post?
News.
The Daily News. I
Okay.
was working from the Daily News from 1960 until 1976, early 77.
Okay, so during that period of time, we'll ask you a question that we've asked Leslie Visser and a whole bunch of other people. Who was better, Wilt, Russell, or Jabbar, and why?
Well, at least they played against each other to some extent, so you can actually make an intelligent decision on it. I'm a Wilt guy, but I'm a Kareem guy too. And, I can't argue against Russell because he won so much. I refuse to pick one. It's like I'll pick one for your program and go to the next program and pick another one. They all are deserving. Obviously, winning is what it's all about, but Kareem won an awful lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, the MVPs and all that stuff, the statistics count. I designate Russell as the foremost role player in the history of basketball because, he wasn't a great scorer. He wasn't, he just like Wilt, he was not a good free throw shooter. He shot like 51%. Nobody ever mentions that because he won so much. But anything the Celtics needed him to do, that's what he would do to win. And that's really what a role player is. Fit in where you can, make the most of your ability. And, great rebounder, great shot blocker. I heard yesterday on the air, did I really hear this? What was it? Oh, yeah. So Joker, I think he got could it be 77th triple-double last night. And they said he's one behind Wilt. He's like, I don't know, fourth, fifth, whatever. He's one behind Wilt. I'm laughing. I'm saying, one behind Wilt? I said, it's so stupid. Because
in one season, maybe.
No, they didn't. They never counted block shots back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many times did Wilt block 10 or more shots and stuff? And, so I don't, all those statistics you can do whatever you want with them. That's an old line of mine is that they're like, what's the law? Maybe I shouldn't say it on the air. But anyway.
You can say it.
Say anything you want.
You can say anything you want.
Big First Amendment guys here.
Yeah, so they're like, prostitutes. You can do whatever you want with them. Statistics.
And Billy has, by the way.
Actually, I heard a great line once about writers. Writers are like prostitutes. They say, I think it was Molière. He said first they do it for love, then they do it for a few friends, and then they do it strictly for money. So writers, prostitutes, there's some kind of comparison.
Hey,
I like that.
You bring up Joker. Every time I hear who's the best player in basketball, I hear Doncic's name, I hear Embiid's name, I hear the Greek Freak's name. I never hear Joker's name, and he's been a two-time defending MVP. Why is that?
I think you're talking to the wrong people. you ought to talk to people who know the game.
Well,
I think it's you watch him last night. I could watch him every night.
Yeah, he had a triple-double last night.
Yeah, I just said that, but forget about the statistics. Just watch him play the way he sees the court. He's in fabulous shape this year, best ever. And he runs the court. He's helping out on defense up top and then getting back into the middle. Finds guys open that didn't even know they were open until he gets them a pass for a layup. He can hit the three-pointer. He's a tough rebounder. He doesn't jump more than 6 inches off the ground.
He's got the vertical leap of Jordan, the country.
I like that.
That's a good line.
You can use it.
Very good. Where did you use that before?
I never have.
That's pretty good.
I never have.
Well, I'm writing it down.
Good call.
And you don't have to attribute it. You can make it up as your own.
Well, I always tell people, if you want me to attribute it, get your own column.
It's funny. My friend T.J. Simers, who was a writer for the L.A. Times, we used to play golf all the time, and we would play for money, and he would never win. But he said all the time, all the people know is what I'm going to tell him, and I'm going to tell him I kicked your ass, so that people in L.A. think that he kicked my ass. He never beat me once.
That's funny. Whatever happened to him?
He's writing on Twitter. He sued the L.A. Times, and that cost him his job because they fired him when they fired him for ageism, and he sued the L.A. Times for that, and he won a $15 million lawsuit, and they got him hung up in appeals now. He's appealing his third time, but he's starting to write again. So he was the first guy I asked to write the book. I wrote a book called If These Lips Could Talk and I eventually found Billy
out of default when all else failed.
But he's doing well. He's back writing again. He's got a column on Twitter. He's a lot like Pete Vescey. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He just writes what he sees as the truth. There you go. And that's good. I said in the introduction, if there was no Pete Vescey, there would be no Stephen A. Smith. What's your feelings?
God, I'm sorry I was born.
What's your feelings on Stephen A. Smith? What's your feelings on the way society has promulgated or propelled these guys into superstardom?
I don't even
And you were the first. You were the first.
Well, whatever. Look, unfortunately, we're both from the same neighborhood in Queens, from Hollis, Queens. In the beginning, he gave me great respect, which is good. I didn't really care, but he did. He worked for the Daily News in New York, and then went down to Philly. But in the beginning, he tried to do things correctly. He tried to write. He tried to cover. He tried to report, and everything he did poorly. He was a terrible writer. They used to tell me that every story he sent in, they had to rewrite. But he got away with it. And then he just zeroed in on being, a loudmouth, and that seems to be where it's at, for a number of years now. Just say whatever comes to your mindlessness, and people, your bosses love that stuff. I mean, he got through a few tough times in his career where he was, fired, let go, lost this job, lost that job, and then comes back strong because he came back saying dumber things than ever. And I have absolutely no respect for him. And does he make a fortune? I don't care about that. Let them make as much as they want to pay him. I blame bosses, and I blame the fans for following somebody like that, for thinking somebody like that is saying something important or insightful. He's got no insight. I try to listen to the halftimes, where he and Wilbon and Rose get together and do their stuff. It's hilarious. I mean, he's got nothing, zero. He's got no input, but there it is. So,
you made your point very clear on Stephen A. Smith. That's for sure.
I read a great quote about you, Peter. It said, Peter writes the way he plays basketball. You come away bruised. And I really like that. I mean, because another guy had said you either break news or you break balls, one or the other.
Yeah, I said that.
I love that one too. And that's a Queens thing or a Bronx thing or a New York thing. I mean, you break balls. I mean, that's who influenced you the most when you were coming up writing? Who are the writers, the sports writers you imagine?
Or commentators.
Oh yeah, Damon
Oh,
Dunn,
first-
Jimmy Cannon. I mean, who was
Yeah, well, first of all, let's go back to your first thing. You said that, when you play against me, you're bruised. I was not a physical player. I really wasn't. I really wasn't. But
you made up for you made up for lack of talent with aggression.
no, I had talent. But I really wasn't aggressive. I was a shooter, and so people are finding out. People who really don't know sports are finding out that, damn, when you play sports, you get in fist fights with either your teammates or the opponents. I mean, that's what happens. It's not like I'm going out there trying to bogart somebody or intimidate somebody. People set a moving pick on me, I would try to knock them down, the next time. And so that got people, got me into fights and stuff. But I remember, look, I'll tell you a story, like this thing that happened with Draymond and Poole. Okay, Draymond is much bigger than Poole. But I went to Hofstra, and I went to Hofstra for 6 months. And then the Daily News offered me a full-time job.
Wow.
And I dropped out of Hofstra, obviously. I didn't like school anyway, wasn't doing that great in it. And I dropped out, and that was 1963. And but I'd been working summers there, like all baseball seasons for 3 years prior to that, starting in 60. So anyway, I'm on the freshman team at Hofstra, and I'm sometimes starting, sometimes sixth man. And we had a good team. We had a real good team. I think we only lost 5 games. And we played against Stan McKenzie and Mal Graham, at NYU.
Mal Graham from White Plains, New York.
Yeah, Mike Silliman from Army. I mean, we played against some good teams. So I had a guy on my team named Mike Tilley who went to St. John's Prep. And he was a backcourt man just like me. And I think he might even be, Hofstra's maybe 4th or 5th leading scorer in their history, something like that. He could score. But we did not like each other. So we got into a fight one day during practice. And, it was a lot of good punches thrown. Most of them I got hit by. And then, and then we were thrown out of the gym. And Calkins' gym at Hofstra was downstairs. I was upstairs. We had to go to the locker rooms downstairs. We were fighting on the stairs going downstairs. We were fighting in the locker room. And then in the shower, we were fighting. And so the next day I show up at practice, and the varsity coach, his name was Paul Linner. He had replaced Butch Van Bredikoff. And Paul Linner looked at me, and I had bruises all over I was bruised big time. And he said to me, "Man, what the fuck was going on yesterday? Do you realize that Mike Tilley could have hurt his hand on your face?"
Great story.
And I knew then I was not going to make the varsity if I stayed around. Linner did not like me. And anyway, I had the job offer and I left. So that's what happened. We had a fight during the Bad Boys days. The press would have these games, at the arena. This time it was at in Detroit. I forget where we were, in Auburn Hills, wherever we were. And so the press would play, and some guy set a moving pick on me. He's a guy from the Times. He is still with the Times. God, what's his name? He covers mostly track and field. I mean, he's one of their best feature writers. He's been there forever. And at that time, he was with the Philadelphia Inquirer. So he set a moving pick on me, and I set one on. I came in and I knocked him down. Well, I don't know if I knocked him down, but I knocked him silly. And then, so he starts throwing punches, right? And none of them hit me, and I broke his nose. And so the Village Voice writes a piece about me. What a bully I am, like I started this, I did that, I did, like what the hell. They loved controversy, and they didn't realize, I wish I could remember his name. He sent me a note or he apologized to me afterward. He definitely knew he started it. And anyway, but the Voice wrote this story, and I said to the guy, I remember him asking me about the fight. I'm saying, did you play ball? Did you ever play basketball? Did you ever play football? I mean, you tell me you never in a fight in the gym? Are you kidding me? And so it was a joke, but yeah. So here he is. He's still writing today. This guy.
And that you were talking about the fight between the Warriors.
Yeah.
How do you think that'll play out during the season?
Well, I was thinking that last night I did watch the game. I really like Denver. A lot of young players that I don't even know. This guy Bones, whatever, Highland from TCU, I think. And
Well,
then
they got the guy from Kentucky's back after a year out also.
who's that?
I can't remember.
Oh, Porter.
No, not Porter.
Then they got Braun. They got Christian Braun from Kansas, who's terrific. I don't watch college ball. I said, whoa, this guy is good. Anyway, so I was thinking Green had a really good game.
Yep.
He was making shots. He was making free throws. He was playing good D. And I was thinking, boy, this is really going to help the Warriors trade him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the Lakers with Westbrook.
No, it's not. It's unlike that. He can't do anything right. Basically, he played some good defense the other day, but
yeah. Let's go back. Let's go back to your early years. You were a big ABA proponent, and I can never get over when they merged. Why the NBA didn't absorb the ABA stats into their official books? Because I mean, the NFL absorbed the AFL. Major League Baseball is absorbing the Negro League stats, and the thing that is most outrageous to me is that they dominated the All-Stars for the ABA All-Stars dominated the NBA All-Stars for years after the merger.
Well, they didn't dominate. They came in and they the first year I think 10 ABA guys made the All-Star team. Okay. Next year was 9 or 11, whatever it was. Yeah, and they beat them in head-to-head over the years. They beat them.
And I believe the 75 Kentucky Colonels were the best team in basketball that year.
Yeah, well, you're very prejudiced, Frank. I mean, let people know that, you were an artist, Gilmore freak.
He's got the shirt on.
He's got the, right, there you go. Did you ask me a question?
Yeah, I asked you what did you feel about, why hasn't the NBA absorbed those stats?
Stats. No, Frank, absolutely. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous that they're not incorporated. Makes no sense. You brought up the key thing. Major League Baseball now incorporated the Negro League stats. Okay. How can you not have the ABA stats? It's like, it makes no sense. There's a lot about the NBA to me that makes no sense anymore. It turned off in many, many different ways. I try to find places where I can, enjoy watching a game, like watching Denver last night, and I enjoyed watching them beat the Warriors. I don't think the Warriors are going to win it this year. Not off that game. I just don't think that you can get that kind of intensity at their, guys that have been through it 3-4 times, 5-6 times. I don't think you can, revive that for a whole schedule and then playoff series. I loved. The way Memphis gave them such a hard time last year in the playoffs, and now Ja was hurt for a good part of that.
I know you're a big Ja fan, aren't you?
Oh, who isn't? who isn't? This guy, I mean, he's phenomenal to watch. Last night, 49, and the things he does in the air, and switching hands, either hand. You pray he's not going to get hurt. Frank, you and I remember Tiny Archibald. He wasn't nearly as athletic as Ja or Trey. Whoa. Not nearly, but he was so fast, and he could get into the paint and go up in the air, and that's how he had so many injuries, so many Achilles injuries, 2 or 3 of them, and still was able to adjust. But God forbid, we're going to see that with Ja. every time he goes up, it's like he's so, oh man, he's so vulnerable to getting, just hit a little bit, he's going to go down hard. And God, I wrote the other day, I'm sure you saw that, that's why you say it. It's like if I were living near Memphis, I would absolutely have season tickets to, not the good ones, but I'd be in the building. Or I would try to use my my sports writing degree to get in for free. But and then this kid Bones I mentioned just a bit ago, never saw him play in my life till last night. He reminded me so much of Ja. I was just blown away by what he can do with the ball. What he can, oh my goodness, he can shoot. Man, he's going to be a great player.
And Zion's supposed to be in pretty good shape now.
And Zion looks fabulous. That team, that's another one. So Memphis and New Orleans, they're two young teams from last year, that did really well. No Williamson, no Za for most of it. But they're the teams I would really watch. Boy, they're very good, both of them, and both really good coaches too.
Speaking of coaches, can you give us some inside scoop on what happened with the Boston coach firing?
No, I have no inside scoop. It's again, I could write a chapter in a book of all the coaches. I don't even have to name them. It'd make it better if I didn't name them, but I could. Of all the coaches who got caught messing around with either wives of somebody who worked for the franchise, who was very closely related to the franchise, either head coaches or assistants. I could do a whole chapter on that, and it would be, it'd blow you away. It'd blow you away. Some big time coaches, big time. And then we could just start a guessing contest, and that would be better than me naming them. Though, I could name them without a doubt, not worry one bit about being sued. But guys who had affairs with outside the marriage, and I'm no prude, believe me. I got caught myself, but many times. But
small fault in a good man, Peter. Small fault in a good man.
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to say that.
It could happen to the Pope. It could happen to the Pope, I tell you.
Yeah, but he wouldn't lose a marriage. I lost 2 marriages because of that, but I'm not happy about that. But wish I had done things differently. But anyway, I could do that, and then I could do a whole thing on all the fights between teammates. Could do a chapter on that.
So what you're saying is that the social media aspect of the 20s, 2022s, and beyond are affecting what everybody does.
No, not what they do.
How it's reported. Anybody can report it.
No, there are repercussions now.
Yeah.
They would hide it before. Teams would hide it. An assistant coach might get somebody who worked for the team pregnant, and she would have to go, and he wouldn't.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I mean,
I'm just talking about like James Harden in a strip club. It's going to end up on social media because everybody's got a phone.
But that's not illegal. So I'm willing to bet that James Harden has done so many things illegal that we'll soon find out one of these days that will dwarf the strip club stuff. Wow. So I'm not a Harden fan at all.
So I'm going to talk about the Rucker years. Carl Rule, Pony, Pony, the best man at your wedding, Dr. J. Why don't you tell us about all of that? Because those were
I'd love to.
Those were fabulous times. And any stories you could tell. Carl Rule. I always thought your name was fucking Pete Vescey, because that's what Carl would say. I want to go see fucking Pete Vescey. Fucking Pete Vescey. We got to take care of Pete fucking Vescey. Fucking Pete Vescey. I thought that was your first name. Fucking Pete Vescey. Why don't you tell some story?
Carl Rule. You got to tell the people what this is. So this is Carl Rule, was the one of the top guys in management for Pony Sneakers. And when Pony Sneakers began in the late 70s, I was a part of that. I got a job with them, doing a bunch of stuff. My agent, my lawyer, my first divorce lawyer agent, Bill Madden, he was their lawyer at Pony. So he got me in. Carl Rule was like, he was the guy. He took such good care of me. So I'm working. I'm a columnist for the Post. Those are unbelievable days. So this is after the Rucker. So this is 70. This is the late 70s. So we'll go back to the Rucker when I showed up in 71 with Julius. So this is the 70s, and then Carl gets me back in the Rucker in 80, 81. Pony sponsors our teams. We win 2 championships with Louis Orr and Sam Worthen and couple guys from DePaul, and some really good players. Anyway, so Carl Rule, I'm going to give you Carl Rule. Carl's from Germany, and so I'm going to give you 2 Carl Rule stories, although I have 100. First of all, he took such good care of me. I had no money in those days. I'm a columnist for the Post. I have no money. Paying a first divorce, got remarried, couldn't even afford a car. He got me a car. He leased me a Toyota, and so he took care of me that way. And then I'm signing players. I'm signing NBA and NBA players to contracts with Pony. I'm writing a column for the Post. Nobody was hiding anything. This was right up front. And, I signed World Free, Dawkins, Van Bredikov. I go on and on.
And I was doing it at the same time that Pete was signing the basketball players. I was signing baseball players.
Oh, really?
For Pony. Yeah, I signed Rod Carew, Don Baylor. I represented Rod for 40 years, and that's how I met Rod, because Carl calls me up and he says, "We have just signed Reggie Jackson, but he's now been traded to the Angels. Go sign him. Go see him." So I went to see him, and Reggie Jackson looked at me, and he said, "You're a pretty good-looking white guy. Do you own a briefcase?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Do you own a sport jacket?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Do you own a tie?" I said, "Yes, sir." And Reggie says, "Come back tomorrow and we'll sign all these motherfuckers." And we did. And so I was signing the baseball players at the same time Pete was signing the basketball players. So continue with your story.
So Carl is just, he's a Damon Runyon character, to the nth degree. So
thick beard.
Two stories. So he used to take, after games at the Garden, he would Pony him. He would take a lot of players out to eat. Oren and Oresky's. I remember we used to go there a lot.
Absolutely.
A bunch of places on the east side, where everybody hung out, and I never had to go to my pocket. I never picked up a check. My wife, my young wife, would come with us and stuff. So I remember driving. He would drive us home down in we lived on 20th Street and First Avenue, and he would drive us home. So we would take Lexington Avenue down, and we'd stop at a light in the 50s or so, and he goes, "You see those women over there? Yeah, those are hookers."
Hookers.
I said, hookers.
Hookers.
I said, really? I said, how do you know they're hookers? He said, "Look at their feet. They're wearing ponies."
That's terrific.
Oh my God! He had so many stories like that. He was out of control. I had him. He liked black women.
Yep.
And so did I. And so my wife and I had him over for dinner once, in an apartment, and he brought this beautiful black woman with us, and we had dinner, and then so she's clearing the table.
The skinny girl. What was her name? Oh, Tiny. He was dating Tiny for a lot of years. Tiny.
I don't know, but she was gorgeous. So all of a sudden,
This is what-
all of a sudden, I see Carl is laying out cocaine on my table, on my kitchen, on my dining room table, spreading cocaine out. And I'm saying, Carl, what the fuck? I mean, you can't wait till you get home. I mean, what is going on? Like Carl was out of control, but I loved him to death. No, I didn't share any that night, or any night actually.
But Billy could get high snorting whatever was in Carl's goatee, because whenever he snorted the cocaine, it was always up in his goatee.
You said he had a beard like somebody threw a firecracker into a haystack or something, right? It was all over his face.
I'll tell you another quick Carl story.
Well, let me just say, is there any way that he's still alive?
Well, he was alive 5 years ago. And in typical fashion, he texted me, and he said, I'm using his accent, I want to find Bob Carr. Do you know where Bob Carr is? So I texted him back right away. And then a week later, I got another text, and I texted him back right away. And he texted one more time. He said, you answer texts too quick. I'm out. And that, and that was it.
You had no reply.
I had no reply.
He was 1 in 25 million. He was like unbelievable. But very kind, and I have nothing bad to say about him at all, or ever will. So
my wife's got a T-shirt that says "Carl Rule was here" with a picture of him. With a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and she was pregnant at the time when she wore the T-shirt. So that's a great picture that I got in my album.
Well, can you send that to me, please?
Yeah, I can try to find it. Sure.
I'd love to have that. I only have pictures of him. We won the championship, like I said, twice. So on my wall in my apartment, I have a Rucker wall, and yeah, so he's in the picture when we won the championship, and that's really the only, back in those days, we didn't have phones that took pictures, and God, it just kills me that I don't have, I had very little of my time at Rucker or in the ABA or being around, even into the 80s and stuff. I never brought a camera with me. I have no picture of me with Larry Bird. I mean, that's ridiculous. As much as I was around him, travel with him, went out to eat with him, it really pisses me off. I don't have that.
Well, John O'Reilly, I still keep in touch with John O'Reilly on Facebook. He's got a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of photos of Carl. He may have some Pony Expresses, because I was writing the Pony Express.
Really? You were?
Yeah. So he may have... He may have some Pony Expresses as well.
I was in touch with him. I still peripherally am, I guess. But I'd love to be back in touch with him. Is he in New York?
He's in. Yeah, I think he's in Jersey.
Close enough.
Yep.
So do you want to go back to the Rucker?
Yes, sir.
For sure. I want to hear about the Rucker League.
Yeah, I mean, the way I knew the Rucker tournament was from reading The City Game by Pete Axel.
Yep.
And that was my introduction to it, really. No newspaper was writing about it. And so I was at the Daily News then. Pete Axel and I are exactly the same age, only he died when he was like, I think he's dead 25 years already. A great writer, for Newsweek and, everywhere. I mean, what couldn't he write great about? And he lived in my neighborhood. So we run into each other every once in a while. And so I'm reading The City Game. I'm talking to him in the bar every once in a while. He was going through a divorce at that time. And I just got really interested in the characters. And so we had a friend of mine from my neighborhood named Butch Purcell, who became the assistant coach of our team, although over the years, it seems that he was also the head coach, but it's funny how that happens. But I don't care. I love Butch. Butch died a few years ago. So he was from Harlem, totally intertwined with everybody who was running the Rucker. And he lived in my development where I was in Stuyvesant Town. We were a few buildings away from each other, played ball all the time. The playground right across from where he lived is now named after him. And thank God they did it when he was alive. That was a huge, huge thing. So he got me into the Rucker. He got me invited to bring a team into the Rucker. And I organized it. I got sponsored the first summer by Roy Bowe, the Nets owner.
Right.
And had he not sponsored me, he probably could have afforded to pay Julius, when he, no. It cost $300 to sponsor the team. But, look, go back to 71. I mean, it's not like nobody's got $300 in their pocket to, especially a newspaper man who's on the take from Pony Sneakers,
By the way, Pony stood for Property of New York. Did you know that?
I did not.
Nice acronym.
Wow.
I didn't know that till we were writing the book.
That's interesting.
Property of New York. I still talk to Roberto every now and then.
I did. He showed up in my house on Long Island. He just came up the driveway, knocked on my house, and we tried to do something together. He took good care of me. Roberto, he went to Reebok. He took me with him. Different days, again, nobody's hiding anything. I was working for Reebok and writing.
And I should mention that Roberto was the president of Pony and with a co-founder of Perrier USA with Bruce Nevins. So he was a pretty well-to-do guy.
So you got all the names.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then anyway, we weren't able to do anything when he went back down the driveway, and I tried stuff, didn't work out. Tried to do something with Kobe, couldn't do it. Anyway, so I'm in the league now. I bring a team in 71. I recruited. I was also a player coach. Butch was also a player coach, and we hardly played, but we played. When things were gone one way or the other. Mostly it was we were winning, but there were a couple games we lost 3 games. I think the first year we did not win the championship with Julius. We were loaded. I brought all my ABA and guys from the Nets. I brought Billy Paultz and Ollie Taylor and Joe Dupree and Brian Mahoney and Manny Leaks and we also had Mike Reardon from the Knicks. Wow. We were loaded.
You must have been some coach, but not winning with that team.
Yeah, you sound like Red Holzman. That's what he said to me. He said, at camp that next day, he said, don't ever talk about my coaching. You couldn't win with that team. But Tiny Archibald had a team in there that was equally loaded. They had Austin Carr, who just came out of Notre Dame, #1 pick of the draft, and Rhonda Hagan and Jim Brewer and Willie Worsley, who starting guard on Texas Western's championship team in '60. I mean, they were loaded, and they had a real coach. They had they had God, come on, CCNY coaches. Damn.
See, senior moment.
Yeah, man. Well, I haven't used his name in a long time. He's still alive. But they cheated. His team cheated because they held practice once a week. that was bullshit. We showed up on Saturday or Sunday late and, got in the layup line and got it going. But so he did it differently. And then Dean Meminger's team was loaded too. And so they finished ahead of us. We finished 3rd the first year. And then we won 2 out of the next 3. But those days, I wrote about them often. I think about them often. Those were the greatest days of my career because it got me totally accepted by the black players. I was the only white guy. Me and Billy Pauls, basically. A few guy, Mahoney and
Whopper.
Bobby McIntyre.
The Whopper.
Yeah, the Whopper. So
Whopper.
we were up there. But, for the most part, they saw every week. I was there. And Whopper was there every week, even once when it was landed on his birthday. So for 4 years, Billy Pauls is coming to every game, made him the player he became because he knew. I wrote a big thing about it, which I've not, it'll be part of the book, but how in the beginning he knew he had to pay the price. See, they were mocking him. This big lumbering guy, he was overweight at the time.
He had a terrible haircut.
Terrible. They were playing tricks on him. They would do all sorts of shit on him. They would, and then they would dunk on his dome. And by the way, the coach's name is Floyd Lane.
Floyd Lane.
Floyd Lane, very very important man in New York City basketball. So we were there, and then so that made my career because that translated from the summertime to the court. The regular season playoffs, the word would be passed. I got to be great friends with Tiny. Here I am. Julius Erving is on my team. Nobody had ever really seen him play. He played for UMass, and now he's in Harlem. And you're like, whoa, what the hell is this? And so the word was passed by those guys. And all the ones I mentioned, I'm still good friends with most of those guys that are alive. I think they're all alive, I just mentioned.
I'll tell you a quick story. Artis, after his junior season, the season we lost to UCLA in the finals, he went up to a workout camp in New England. And he came back and he said, Frank, I've just seen the most phenomenal player I've ever seen.
Yes.
And it was Julius. And I said, really? He said, yeah, nobody's ever heard of this guy, but believe me, you will. And he was right on.
Well, he was right on. Julius averaged 20 points, 20 rebounds.
Yeah.
At least 1 year, sophomore, junior. It might have been both years. Very few guys in the history of the NCAA have done that.
Artis did it as well.
But Artis played.
I think there's 7 guys that have done it.
Yes, pretty well known Artis Gilmore. Artis, by the way, brought in a team from Kentucky to play in a tournament that was in Harlem. I think it was at CCNY. I think that's where it was held, where Floyd Lane coached. He coached that team. He also played for them. But he brought in a team. I think one was from Chicago. One was from Kentucky, from Louisville. I think, remember Simon? Remember Simon?
Yeah.
Who played? Yeah. And then Washington, I think, and then New York. I think those were the 4 teams. Or maybe it was 6. Philly might have had a team. Anyway, I remember Artis playing in that. But I knew Artis from college. So Julius was an unknown. I called the owner of the Squires, a guy named Earl Foreman, who was partners with Abe Poland with the Bullets. And then they had a disagreement, and so he started the Virginia Squires. Started in Washington, actually, and then moved them to Virginia. They were a regional team. And I called him. Earl and I were really tight. I loved Earl. And I said, Earl, do you know how good Julius is? He said, well, we signed him, big contract, coming out of school. I said, no, but do you realize how good he is? And he said, well, Johnny Kerr says he's good. Really, Johnny Kerr was the guy who was behind him signing. Al Bianchi was the coach, but Kerr was the GM. And I said, Earl, you're just not going to believe it. When you see it, it's like, I'm telling you right now, this is something we've never seen before. And boy, did that happen. So, artists, they ought to hire us as scouts.
They should. They should. And then Dr. J became your best man at your wedding.
He did, yeah, for my second wedding. the one that lasted 42 years. But yeah, so we're still in touch. He lives in Atlanta, and we're still tight. We don't see each other that much. It was a Rucker thing last year. where they last summer, not this summer, the summer before, where they the NBA Players Association put money into Rucker Park, and they made a transformation. Really made it into something special. And we showed up for that. A lot of guys showed up for that. And when I first started, when Julius and I first started, it was the court was very small. It was almost like West 4th Street. And then finally they turned it around. They turned the court around and they made it much bigger. But the baskets, iron baskets in the damn cement. So if you went hard to the hoop and didn't do it right, you were hitting that basket hard. And there was a guy in the stands. He had a line for everything. His name was Happy Felton. And I remember the first time I heard him say it, some guy got just squashed on that basket. It just crumbled to the ground. And I hear this guy in the stands going, "I told you not to fuck with that basket. It's in great shape. It's been out there all winter."
Hey.
That's okay.
Write that one down.
Again, Harlem helped me in so many different ways, but it really helped my writing because I have a good ear for picking up stuff, and I would just steal everything I heard.
Writers borrow, great writers steal.
Yeah.
Man, because we have to filter all the crap that people try to tell us and stuff. But there were so many things going on in that park that I was able to write about, and then and then reminisce about. I've got a couple of things hanging on my wall, stories that I wrote over the years that I just, had them framed. And boy, those were great times, and I said it many, many times. So I'm there 6 years over time. Six years, starting in 71, ending in 81. Never had one problem.
Great.
Not one.
Did our mutual friend Bill Bradley ever show up and play?
He showed up before I got there. I think he played one game. Might have played two. The Knicks had Eddie Donovan was the general manager at the time in 68, and he wanted all the Knicks to play up there because he knew what it would do for them for their toughness. So a lot of guys did play. Willis Reed played 3 years, 3 summers. That didn't help his knees. and Butch Comives played. Dave Stallworth played. Cassie Russell. Frazier played once, I think.
Don't tell me Phil Jackson played.
No, he never played. And Monroe actually never played at Rucker ever.
Did Gus Johnson ever play at Rutger? Because he was a terrific player also.
Yeah, no question. In fact, I ran into Cassie at the All-Star game in New York in 2015, and we were talking about different things like the game against Princeton, where Princeton had them down, had Cassie's Michigan team down with 8 minutes to go, down 13 or so, and Bradley fouls out, and then Gary, the point guard, fouled out, and they lost. So we were talking about that. I said to him, "How come you didn't guard Bradley in that game?" He said, I wanted to guard him. He said, but the coach said, no, stay out of foul trouble. And, if the time comes at the end and stuff like that, I will switch you on to him. As it turned out, he didn't have to, but I thought that was great coaching, huh?
Yeah.
And then he also, we talked about Rucker, and he whined about his knees. He said, playing up there just a short time, he said, that killed my knees. And Stallworth, by the way, that's where he discovered Hawthorne Wingo playing up there. Wingo was, not known, came up from North Carolina just to get a game up and, try to see what he could do against these players in New York. And Stallworth saw him play, maybe even played against him, played with him, whatever, recommended him to Red Holzman, and they brought him to camp. And he wound up making the Knicks, their second team.
Do you have any good David Stern stories?
Yeah, I got 100 David Stern stories.
Why don't you pick out the best one or two?
No, the best. The best I'm not going to tell you.
Send the book, Peter.
Yeah, I don't know. David and I had an on-again relationship. I think he really respected me. He said it many times to different people. And I always respected him. How could you not? What he was accomplishing. So before he showed up, I think he took over in '84 from Larry O'Brien. I would help Richard Kaner, who was an agent over in Europe, one of the first, still working to this day. He's 80. And he would bring teams over to Europe, and not only teams, but not only players, but he would bring coaches like Stan Albeck and Cotton Fitzsimmons and guys like that over there, and they would coach these games. So I was in charge of recruiting and stuff like that, and we did really well. The teams did really well. There was money to be made in those days, like not like today, but guys probably would go over there for a week or two for $2,500 or something, And so when Stern came on board, he called me into his office, and he congratulated me on the job that I was doing overseas. He did good, man. He said, "But I'm here to tell you that I'm in charge now, and we're going to be doing that. So we're in, and you're out." But so honest, God, you can't ask for more honesty than that. And then he hired me as the first cable show on the NBA was with USA Network, and I forget the woman who was in charge of it. They hired me to do a halftime show, and they did it out of my apartment. It was ludicrous. There was no preparation. There was no direction. It was just cameramen came in. We arranged the furniture and said, "Okay, you're on." And I would have to tape it. And I had no experience or very little. So it wasn't very good. So I'm doing this off the top of my head. And second or third week, I said something truthful about either Bernard King and or Spencer Haywood, and got on the air, and I was fired. It lasted 3 weeks, I think. And so he called my agent, who was Louis Chaffel, who became the owner of the Miami Heat with Billy Cunningham, and has been retired forever since they sold it. They each got $33 million when they sold it to the present owners. So anyway, he called him up and he said, "We're firing your client." And he said, "Okay, fine. Well, we're going to pay him. We're going to pay him for the whole year." And they did. And so we had just built a house on Long Island, and couldn't afford it, but my wife wanted a house. And we didn't have money for furniture in the living room and the dining room. And so we used David Stern's contribution for the year to pay for the furniture. We got nice furniture. We called it the David Stern Room.
How'd you make the jump to NBC then? Because he had to approve you for NBC.
Yes, very, very good, Frank. So now it's years later. I'd like to know what year that was. Before NBC. So I started. My idea was to do a pregame show for CBS. CBS had the NBA, and so I got together with. I don't even want to mention his name. If I could remember, he played at Columbia. Great player for Columbia. Chet Forty.
Yep.
He was a big time producer, director for ABC. Just very well known. But he had been fired for. He was a gambler, and he'd been fired. So we got together and we called a pregame show. We shot we shot the first show to sell. I never forgot. We did the first show. It was me, Hubie Brown, Mike Breen. How about that? We're talking a long time ago. He was just a,
By the way, Hubie is still broadcasting at 88. He's phenomenal.
yeah. Well, that's your opinion. So now, Renaud Monroe. Those are the four people who did the first show, and we went to Houston to sell it, and it sold. And so we come back, and now we're doing a pregame for CBS. There's no such thing, called Hoop du Jour. And we did 10 segments. And it was basically the same thing I wound up doing at NBC. I would go out and interview somebody during the week, and then we'd shoot it in New York. Me and Hubie was out of work at that time as a coach. We'd shoot it in New York. Mike Breen was not part of it because they felt we didn't have enough money to pay him. But at least, I felt terrible about it. But made it up to him later on because I recommended him strongly to NBC, and they hired him. And look, he's still doing the game. So
is he doing a good job?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he does a good job. Good. He knows how to do it, and he knows how to keep his job. And so we did 10. We never got paid. Chet Walker and his group, Rose, or whoever they were, I can't remember really. They didn't pay us.
Chet Walker was 40.
Well, they were in combination.
Okay.
They were a team, and we were supposed to be paid every week. We never got paid. And every week I'm saying to my agent who was involved in it, I said, man, I'm not doing it anymore. This is ridiculous. I'm doing all the work. I'm not getting paid. And, he said, no, stick with it. So we never got paid until the end. So meanwhile, we're doing 77% of the affiliates are buying into our show. Maybe not putting it on prior to the game itself, but at some point during the week, they're using it. 77%, okay?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. So now we're in for the second year. There's a $2 million budget. We're still not getting paid. And Chet Forty's arrested for stealing the money. Goes to jail. Chet Forty goes to jail. I'm out the money. I get a lawyer. We sue Rose for the money. I think they owed me $30,000, and they owed Hubie $30,000. And I got the lawyer, and I looked at the other day. I only got paid 2/3. I assumed Hubie got 2/3. Never got the final third, and I paid for the lawyer. Hubie never offered me a dime for that. And just in case you're watching, Hubie, thanks. I got you paid 2/3. So we're out now. We're out. Our show's off. So I could have made an awful lot of money on that. That was my show. And so now years later, it's like 90. CBS loses it to NBC. They have tryouts, auditions. They brought in about 50 people to New York to try out for 2 spots. And most of us auditioned with Marv Albert, who was definitely going to be part of the show, and lasted throughout the 12 years. In fact, he, Costas, and me, were the only ones that lasted the full 12 years of the talent. Only ones. So I had the auditions, and I won it. It was Pat Riley on with, he was co-hosting with Bob Costas, and Bob Ferry was the other insider, who the former general manager of the Bullets, former player, and who just died, months ago. I love Bob Ferry, and anyway, so that's how I got the job. That's how I got it.
At 12 years. What's the most memorable moment of those 12 years?
pinning Jim Gray to the wall one day.
Well, good thing, because I like to pin him to the wall a couple of times. What did he do this time?
Oh man, well, I'm not even going to get into it, but I did do it, and I wanted to hit him so bad, but
you, me, and the rest of America.
Yeah, and they were going to fire me.
Putts.
They, he went whining. He went whining to the boss, and then the second boss got me alone and said, don't worry about it. We like you a lot better than Jim Gray, so we're not going to do anything. But I didn't hit him. But anyway, what was a highlight of 12 years? Man, there was so many unbelievable things that happened. I'm going to probably, I definitely will. There'll be a whole chapter on NBC, things that went on. I broke one of the biggest stories. I defy anybody to say that they did better than this or did similar to this. But when Brian Hill was fired as coach of the Orlando Magic, I broke the story on the air after a game on NBC that the players had held a meeting the night before and voted to get him fired. And so I went with that after the game. Could have done it before, but Eversole, smartly decided not to do that. It would have just totally ruined the whole game, disrupted it, corrupted it, whatever. So we waited till afterward and did it, and it was a whole story with that. But he wasn't fired. He wasn't fired. Immediately after that game, which really put me under a lot of pressure. That's my Yorkie. Who was just,
I was going to
say, has he got a hairball or something?
My Yorkie does the same exact thing.
Cut it out, girl.
She needs to drink water.
You're killing me.
Pin him to the wall.
Pin him to the wall. Well,
he could kick Gray's ass. So anyway, that was he was fired after one more game in Philly on the road, which I hadn't figured on, and then they went back to Orlando, and he got fired. I mean, so I gave breaking news on the air nationally. I mean, really, has that ever happened in any sport?
Not
that I know.
Not before that.
No, I also did that with TNT. They show no appreciation, but it shows no appreciation. But I broke the Kobe Bryant trade to the Lakers at the draft. I did the draft for them and broke that trade. They would love to ignore it for the most part. And tell me, TNT in all the years since, have they ever had a reporter on there that broke a story of any consequence, especially something like that?
No.
And that Kobe story, people denied the story. That was in June, late June, draft. In those days, you couldn't make a trade because of the salary cap the new salary cap didn't take effect until, in this case, it was July 10th. Some dates stick in my mind. And so there were people denying it right up until the time it was announced on July 10th. Oh, no, not happening. Blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, it happened, and it happened that day. And so Kobe gave me a great line, which I've written, and I said, the word was his agent, tell him, you know him, right, Frank?
Arn Tellem. His wife is the president of CBS Entertainment.
There you go. And, and he's what, the president of some big capacity with the Pistons, right? Mm-hmm. So he was his agent, and he told the Nets, do not take him. He will go to Europe. He will not play for the Nets, all bullshit. But the owner, Joe Taub, and he was kind of skittish about drafting a guy right out of high school anyway. And then Calipari had the power to make the draft pick. They worked out Kobe at least twice, maybe I think twice, 3 times. They loved him. John Nash was the general manager, but Calipari had the juice. Loved him. and Nash from Philly had seen him play before with other pros. Anyway, they said they don't take him. And then years later, I say to Kobe, so what would have happened had you been drafted by the Nets? He said, I would have played for them. Are you kidding? Philly down the road, I would have played for the Nets. I said, well, what do you think would have happened to Calipari had you played for the Nets? He said he'd still be the coach.
We're gonna wrap this up, Pete, because we could stay on with you for another hour, but you've been so nice with your time. Derek, you got a question for you?
A question? No, I have 10, 15 questions.
Well, try to limit it down to one or two.
Okay. Okay.
Give me a three-parter.
Well, first of all, I want to find out if we've asked you any questions that you haven't been asked before.
Not really.
Okay, great.
Oh,
okay,
you
so
liar.
I'm gonna try to work that out. So the first question is, since we were talking about black people at the beginning of the segment, beginning of the show, who's the most beautiful black woman in the history of the world?
Halle Berry.
I was just gonna.
Okay.
That would have been a white guy's suggestion also.
She's half black, but okay.
She's only half, really.
Yeah.
Iman's not bad.
All right. Okay, great. Okay, next question is, we got LL Cool J, Russell Simmons, Ja Rule, and Al Sharpton. What do they have in common with you?
They're all from Hollis, Queens.
Woo! Good one. Good one.
Look at that. Nice.
All
Nailed
right.
it.
Next question is.
I used to tell people that I lived in Hollis before it was black.
That's probably true. Okay.
No, but St. Albans, which is right next to Hollis, Jackie Robinson lived, and a lot of the top entertainers in jazz lived. And I used to play Little League ball at St. Peter's right there, St. Peter's Park, and I used to drive by Jackie's house to try to see him. And then he only was there a short while and he moved to Connecticut. But I'm a huge Jackie fan. I have a whole room, a shrine to Jackie Robinson and the Dodgers.
Wow.
And I even have if you just, can you wait 1 second?
Yeah,
I'm going to
sure.
show you. I'm going to show you. Hold on.
Hold on.
Thanks, Lily.
We're holding. Actually, it's
What are the questions you have?
my Yorkie does exactly the same thing that his Yorkie does.
Does it?
But he's only done it since he's been older. So I think when they get older, their mouth starts to dry out or something.
Maybe
Sort of
he
like,
doesn't like black people.
What? I don't understand. What do you mean?
New York. Wow. 42.
Signed by Rachel.
Signed by Rachel.
Signed by.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Jackie
Wow.
Robbins. Jackie.
Hold on.
Oh,
Hold on.
Carl Erskine and Ralph Branca.
Whoa.
Okay.
Nice.
What's the significance of that? Can you tell me?
What are you talking about? The 51?
Yeah.
51 Giants?
Yeah.
Ralph Branca hit a home run?
Call us.
No.
Uh-oh.
No.
No, Ralph Branca threw the pitch that Bobby
Thompson
Thompson hit the home run. Jackie Robinson was on deck, and Carl Erskine was the pitcher.
No. Willie Mays was on.
Okay, Willie Mays was that. I knew this.
Come on. Let's get it together.
Yeah.
Nice.
But Carl Erskine was in the bullpen with Branca. So either one of them could have come in. And Branca owned Thompson.
Wow.
So Charlie Dressen, the manager, just blew it, totally blew it. And I know I spent some quality time with Don Newcomb, 15 years ago, which he was still angry at Dressen for taking him out of the game.
Sure. If it was playing
Still.
now, he would have been out 3 innings earlier if they were playing today.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Jackie Robinson was the commencement speaker at my high school graduation.
Wow.
Where was that?
Valhalla, New York.
Wow.
And then Jackie Robinson grew up about a mile from where we're living now, where we're shooting this now in Pasadena. They got statues there to him and everything. And Jackie Robinson was a great football player as well, because they have a statue of Jackie Robinson as a football player outside the road.
What sport wasn't he great in?
No, he was great in the mall. Baseball. In college, he hit like 183 in baseball in college.
I mean, but he track and field.
Yep.
I mean, he could do anything.
No, I'm saying baseball was his weakest sport
Amazing.
coming up.
Right.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Next question.
Well-
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go on.
Okay. So you seem like a tough guy. Like you've
He's a Green Beret.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a tough guy. Like you're a guy who holds his own. So what's your fight record lifetime?
Under 500, I would say. No, man, you know,
Tough guys take on fights that they shouldn't because
I
they think
learned.
they can win.
Yeah. No, I learned too late that, you know, you got to pick your spots.
Yeah.
You know, there was a guy in the Army. This guy's name was Smith. He was from Mississippi, and he was about 5'9". He had buck teeth, and we got into it for some reason, you know. And we were going to go outside. We did go outside, and he told me, let me see if I can remember it. He said, I'm going to stomp a mud hole in your ass, and then I'm going to walk it dry.
Not a good sentence there.
And I knew right then and there this was not the guy I wanted to fight.
Yeah, I
Did you ever run into him in Mississippi where you grew up?
I did not. Thank God. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I have a couple more, but I do want to get.
See, nobody asked me these questions.
See?
Yeah. So the next question, this is probably a common question, but Charles Barkley just got. So I was reading here in Wikipedia. It says that you are combative, vicious, and containing cruel wit. And you were critical of players. One of the common players you criticized was Charles Barkley. So Charles Barkley just got a new contract. I can't remember. It's like $100 million
for 10 years.
10 years. So what are your thoughts on Charles Barkley?
You know, we've had our moments over the years where, you know, love, hate, whatever. I was working for TNT when Barkley was hired. We had the same agent. He probably still has him. And I definitely made a mistake in trying to take him on.
Physically or
no, not
verbally.
You know, verbally on the air.
Yeah.
You know, we went at it, and you know, because my whole thing is content, and you know, his whole thing is, you know, he'll never be accused of abusing substance. So because he hasn't.
Billy's abused a few substances.
All right. Let's not interrupt the man.
No, but not that substance. Not that substance. We're talking about substance. So anyway, you know, we got into it enough that and my contract was over. They let me go. I'm sure that probably wasn't the only reason, but I had done great work for them. And like I said, nobody they hired since has done anything close to what I did. So we've been at it over the years, you know, and he's got, you know, we love Arizona. He lives there. I've spent a lot of time there over the years, so we've run into each other. When I worked at USA Today, I would spend a lot of time there, and I'd stay at a nice resort, the Camelback Inn on Lincoln. Man, it was like, and so there'd be a knock on the door, you know, with my breakfast in the morning, and the waiter would say, "Well, he got you again." And I would get him in USA Today, and he'd knock me in the Arizona paper the next morning. It was so funny. So it's been good, and it's been bad. But I will tell you though that recently, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but recently we shook hands.
Oh.
And I'm going to do a podcast with him.
Oh, good.
Oh, nice.
That's
Good.
fantastic.
That's
All right.
great.
That's good. All right. Okay.
You're on a roll. Keep going, Derek.
Yeah. So the other I have.
That's a hell of a question, because I have not let that out, and I have a photo of him and us together.
Oh wow. Okay. That's good.
Orange.
Wait. Are you gonna release that photo during your podcast? You're gonna release that photo?
Sure.
You want to send it to us?
No, I'm gonna keep it to myself for
All right,
now.
just
But
checking.
it's funny. It's funny because we're in a gambling den. He's gambling, and I have a bottle of beer in my hand. My friend said, "Who would have thought? Who'd have thought you'd be the one with the bottle of beer in your hand?" You know. So I watched him gamble for a while. So anyway, we have decided to do this podcast.
That's fantastic.
That's really cool.
Okay, so next question is: you and Bill Burr do you know who Bill Burr is? You guys have something in common. Do you know what that is?
No.
You mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast.
No.
Okay, you guys both like black women.
Well, I like to know who doesn't. But, you know,
Anybody says he doesn't is a liar.
yeah, I mean, my God, you know.
Yeah.
My ex-wife, she dated black men. I was dating black women. It was like, really?
Yeah.
My sister married a black guy. My who else? We're loaded. We're loaded in the family. My sister. Can't think, but there are a lot of
Loaded with black people.
Last one, Derek.
yeah.
Last one, Derek.
Okay, last one. Okay, so my last question is.
That's going to be my next goal, actually. My next goal is to marry a black woman.
Okay. All right, last question.
A rich one, hopefully.
Oprah's available. Oh, no, is she?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay, so next question is, there is a... Right now, we're faced with a serious situation in the world, and that is the crisis of censorship. I'm wondering how you feel about censorship, and if you think it's something that we should continue to progress towards in this country of censoring people's ideas, comments, and anything anything concerning their opinions.
No, I don't. Look, I'm a columnist for 40 years. How could I be asking for censorship or looking for censorship? You know, the key is to, hopefully respect what other people say, or, the old line about agree to disagree without hating them, without getting nuts. No, I'm totally against it. I know, there's extremism on both sides. It's insane. I don't know how I would do as a columnist today, although I will say, working for the New York Post, I probably would have had no problem. Phil Mushnick is able to write what he writes, and if he can do that and not get censored, I would have had no problem. The key is, if you're going to have an opinion, you better check your facts. That's not happening.
Right.
I mean, there's just so much stuff that's so wrong. And now you're going to, like in The Wire, they said, well, okay, you told a lie, now what? Well, we're going to fight on the lie.
Right.
Yeah, right. And that's what happens. So they don't care if it's wrong. We're just going to fight on it anyway, which is, what a world.
Yeah. I mean, you can't even talk politics in your house or with your family or anything. And that's so bad for the republic that you don't have an exchange of ideas. But I got to ask you.
Well, I think it's bad for everybody. Look, my ex, 42 years we're married. But one of the biggest problems we had is she's a Trump nut. I grew up 10 blocks from him. 10 blocks. Couple years difference in age. Delivered newspapers to his father's house. And, I know him. I got a letter signed from him back in the day. He sent me a nice letter and stuff, but I'm very apolitical. She became such a nut, watching Fox every day and, wanting to go to the rallies. And my line to her was, look, she can think what she wanted. I didn't. Believe me, I wasn't so much the other way that I was going to go crazy. But enough is enough. How much of a life can you lead with this person, talking about him all the time? And I told her, I said, when they do a survey years from now about the biggest reason for divorce, it is not going to be sex or money or children. It's going to be Trump.
Wow, that's a hell of a statement.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got a...
Last question, Billy.
Well, real quick, I just, first with a quote. Hemingway once said that everybody has a book in them, and 99% of them should have kept it in them. You have a working title for this book that you're writing? You keep talking.
I don't want to let it out. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, are you going to, well, hang on a second. Are you ever going to let the book out? Are you ever going to actually write it? Sit down and write it.
I've written much.
When is it going to be done?
had it rejected. Understand why it was rejected, because I was just writing a book to write a book. But since the last 5 years or so, I've learned an awful lot of things that I didn't know before, and I could really like give you a chapter and verse of what should go in there versus just trying to write it. I wrote so much about Jordan before his doc came out, and I wrote a lot about Bird. You know, the guys that interest me the most. I had a lot of story, but by the time it was reviewed by many editors, many publishers, they were overdosing on Jordan. So I understood why they didn't want it. So now it would be a whole different book. I'll throw it by you guys. So I want to do my first book. I really just want to do anecdotes. You know, you laughed at maybe a half dozen of my anecdotes. You know, I feel that that's what people would want to read the most, especially if they come back on me. You know, most of the ones I tell you are at my expense.
You don't need any advice from me, but the book should be about you, not about them. It should be a hoop de jour book.
Yeah.
By Pete Vescey.
Well, I have all those. I've given away a lot. Gave away a lot of them over the years. You know, a lot of my anecdotes, but I have so many other anecdotes that just it would blow you away.
Yeah,
I mean, some of them are just
the editor should be buying Pete Vescey, not buying Michael Jordan, not buying Larry Bird.
Right. Well, I like that. I like that. So let me tell you. So this one editor, big time publisher, he told me that he did not want a book about me. He wanted, you know, a book about basketball and blah, blah. I said, what a fucking idiot. And, you know, he told me that he did not want a book of anecdotes. Then he later told me how much he loved loose balls. And I'm saying, oh boy, I'm in the wrong place here. And then another guy told me that he loved the stories I had. He said, but, you know, it's like reading your column. I said, yeah, well, same writer. Same writer. He said that. I said, what am I doing? And the third thing is I was offered nice money. I was offered nice money for a couple times. But you know, by the time you pay taxes and by the time you pay your agent.
Yeah, you don't write books to make money, that's for sure.
Well, you know, so again, I don't know. You know, I'd like to do it. I'd like people to know the anecdotes and like to know the inside.
Do you have any kids?
You know, my ex-wife was always asking me, write the stories behind every one of your big stories. Every big story that you broke, whether it was the Brian Hill story or the Sprewell Carlissimo choking story or the guns in the locker room story or all those big, huge stories that I broke. Give the inside. She's got, you know, she's smart. That would be good reading.
Pete, do you have any kids? Do you have any kids, Pete?
I do have 3, and I've always said that I can't write a book until they learn not to read.
Yeah, well, you have to write a book now. The reason we wrote our book is because I wanted my grandkids to know who I was and what I did, and that should be the reason. You should have 3 reasons to write the book. Your 3 kids. So they have a real good history, a reference of who their kid's grandfather was.
Right, that's a good one. My daughter is a writer too. My son is a comedian. He works for Sandler, and you know, so he's a writer too. And so is my first one. He's an intellectual. But my daughter, the other 2 are boys. My daughter. I've discussed with her helping me write the book.
Oh, that's good.
And it would take her knowing a lot of my faults and things I did wrong, and she's okay with that.
Yeah, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to put it all in the book.
Yeah, and I'm okay with
not just the good stuff, the bad stuff as well.
Right. Right. I agree, Frank.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, we'll let you go. You've been terrific.
Really
with your time. I got a whole list of questions that I don't want to.
But I took up all the time. It's
but
okay.
no, that's okay. That's okay. Again, just thank you so much, Pete.
You're welcome. Hey, Derek, I want you to know that you asked the best questions,
Oh,
but secondly, I had a cat that I Himalayan, just died about a year ago. I love that Himalayan, and I named her Patera. Put an A on the Peter,
Oh.
and she was not a black cat.
So from now on, we're going to call you Patera.
Oh, thank you.
That's fine with me. I love that cat. My God.
Go out on a high note. Thank you, Peter. Real
Pete.
pleasure. An honor to meet you, really. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed
All right, thank you. I enjoyed it myself.
Basketball Hall of Fame writer, Pete Vescey.
Without a doubt.
Thank you, Pete.
Bye.
Terrific.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, that was great when he brought out the Jackie Robinson shirt. You know, that was, I had watched, I think it was baseball. It might have been the documentary when they said when Robinson was, before he came up to Brooklyn, he was playing AAA and they won the championship for the first time. I think it was in
Montreal.
Canada, yeah. And they said after the game, a mob of white men were chasing Jackie Robinson down the street for autographs. It was the first time in history that a mob of white men were chasing a black man out of love.
That's true. Well, that was a good podcast,
Terrific.
I think.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I'm glad we got him.
Yeah, I'd love to read that book, especially the anecdotes.
We'll see if it ever comes out.
Yeah,
We'll see if it ever. T.J. Simers is writing a book also.
Well, you gave him a reason to write it.
I did.
3 kids.
And he's starting to write again. By the way, Derek.
Yeah. Talk to me.
Did you see how I gave Pete advice? Do you see how people love me for what I do?
Well, how many times have you seen Pete in your life? How much time have you spent with him?
Hardly any.
Exactly.
Hardly any. I should think. you got a point there. With that. Goodbye, folks.
Goodbye, folks. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, perfect.
Next week's guest has appeared in more than 100 TV series and movies. Jack McGee.